كيايا يغستيني التكت يوهان كخواساش تقاخت تي إيدي كلك بهين يا أخكاك كوخ يدساقن يا أوه هاي يوسقها أخشتقا خد تيج خد وجق يا أوه واسا كش داسا أيانا خد تلتسين يا هاي غتنجي يا ها آني كا كلنج داني كوك كش داسا أيانا خد تلتسين الشنجد يا هاي غتنجي أدي أوه يهس جيوني يهس جيوني قيخني قاخوينق أخد ياوني يا هسو تلتسيني هستو يا قدزكي يا قسكي قا ويغتنك تآتي خس وستي قوشي أخ أيا أدي يوهس خاول أتكن يه قا وانقنينز جسختو هستو يغتنجي جتلقو أخو آخي جو يا جس هستو خنقي خدتي ياوه أختو يكيا يكي وجين خستي يا إيخ أخووز جس تلق أدوي قوشتينخ ككيتو بقا أوي وجين يخغختو تلآ يجلت كت أددات ها تووناغو يس ويخوخ أتو ييتي ويهستو يغتنجي أوه هستو دات أوي يتخوتن أدي هستي وني يه قوش just tape recorder play rewind play stop rewind play وصا هاو شخيل يدد أتلين أتهجي إلان قداسة خدزي وانقنينز خدزي نوتشا يجني هسقوا قش هايا نخوي هكايا نخوي likoodzée يا هشكا هس يا داتي تخوتنك وانقنينز جاك واسا هس likoodzée هس likoodzée أيا يا كاغو قنك إيان قايا يدد سكتو آق جيغو جينكو تسكو يا هسو أدي هس قنوغو يا أواكن الشيشة أيدي سآخي قني يجك أختوني جادو سا قوشلي تواسكو إتو هستو يغتنجي إيديك قوها كي نخنتو Medusa. Lingi one.
Uh, 260. Quech ish dech. Ich.
Ja.
Ja, gewoon kunnen shish. Gunis chish ayah ach ish has ach khanian. Ya gao ye yugugwat. A'tuwunáagu Yís Yan ashalla hech. Ya haklat. Haklat wa le hech sa hawuti ya hachuch ye ti ya hakla. Hakachani yachyati. A'tuwunáagu yata kwalla yago. Ya wutuwatóow ya sak. I tulla I shani aya on gugagut.
Awa. Gul cheese.
Gonna shoot. Sal khan today on yagu ayagu dagut. I tulla I shani.
Awa.
I yadanach Cawdu what? Ooh. Cawdu what llygw on Google Good.
Gul cheese.
Yi ish hash shayi today. Gonna shoot.
Yeah.
Oh, you okay. Gul cheese time. Kecha.
Aktakanuk kedach.
Likoodzée. Kecha. Adisa tu de toasuku kéenáx wutuwatóow. Kéenáx gach aqawuchin ʼatángi. Gleich qaq kéenáx. Shukwaako just Lingi.
Gaat aya. Coach each ish. Yat conclusion. Coach ish redach ki kwan. Ye away yana Cajun achlich. Ye dusagu achlich nakashan. Hu away ye yana Cajun. Duchant ua kuchu ka. Yanach kwan hananach yi ʼawtudli.át I art clean. As chanin away. Duchoni yadi. Ye away. Ye yak kwasaka yi dat. Heart kai tini likat. Ach sunny has. Ach art has. You away ye yak kwasaka. Kla ye uch lisage ye. Ye au away shwudliech. Ye art clean. Ha ye sunny. In quaig. Yag hadat nage ku away. Ye dat ye in wasauk. Hastu hidi tus ye in wasauk. Kauk hit. Ye sunny hidi. Su ye sunny hidi. Hutus hit. Su ye sunny hidi. Hushta hit. Su ye sunny hidi. Wanda hit. Ye away. Ye yauch saka. Gnil cheesh. Hati kauda kid Ug ishandain haune ye away. Hatudach kugach yesaha. Klauk nach aya haya kawususen. Yidat kwa. Yik asagu tunachawe.
Ye awa.
Yadach yakach tudachun. Ye away. Gnil cheesh. You ye yauch saka. Quacht te ane kwan. Ye wan. Ye away. Yande tugach ʼat. Ye yes.
Gul cheese.
Ye away. Ye eat wadat watan.
Gul cheese.
Ye dat kwa hakani yan ye yeti. Ha hasani hastu ha kanki yan. You two sight uhanch. Ach awe ye dat. Hastu jide ayach gugati. Has awe. Hastu lich has. de neil putia. Away yes, a guch sane.
Cheese.
At lechoe
Cheese.
and cheese.
Okay.
Was gaat was has to work she kaki ne kakisine ich take ish do you attend
Okay.
Hunak kasi kandi do you attend yacht eat the thingit ayu ye na page ye date a kwaton kayu atangi Keen yich kena gut ka yach yati teen keen one uwag agi hot ayu duk yi a cut is hashed aga in ayu kawaha ye hot du in nastich ye away yati ka you a tangi ayu kawaha you a tank du in nastich
Okay, Howie. Cheese. So,
Yeah.
ah,
Shak sani kik. Dek 100 dakun.
Dakun.
Page 204. Let's see.
Shukwa.
Chikank. Chikank.
Yet
Na. Dek 100 dakun. Yeah. No. Yewe awe ade you kawanei yewe nachain.
Taka.
So it's partway through the speech.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cheese.
Cha ade.
Response.
Ye awe ade you kana ye wa nachain. Klak anak awe kutzati. Chanak tedi you sedua sak ak ishas. Hash awe sa awa sha simshian woman. Ye awe dusai ledukak kat sekach. Ye awu duasa how you was tla. I remember the name. How you das tla jedak at wusku awe. First in Tlakan. Cook as a kawasike we nakain. Chu ye dat awu ah. They got it. Martha Willard got it, that blanket. First blanket from a Simshian. Away kukas ak kausike. Just ak hask siti achawe. Has au shiguk. Yakawe sukaniyan is aulutu. Ya uhan. Yawasha isa aulutu. Achawe ye duasak. Chilkat blanket. Tlel su sitka. Tlel su huna. Tlel su guksa ye dadune. Only tlak on. That's why they call it chilkat blanket. Ya ye away you tu ye kagwati. I don't know why they lost the art. We simshian ku'a. Tlel idat. I don't see somebody make it like that. ya gao ku'a aktua ya ke, ya tua wuskuwu. Ak kagaki ye yati cha aduch sa yadulagi. Ye away.
Okay. Sheesh. S'eek again.
What's that? It's 222, page 222, Donna Walk. Just S'eek there. About line 148. Yagagut we ka aksatin awe du gede yana shiki we gooch. Aga awe du tu yeyati a tu ke akawagik du unaye. Aga awe cha altin tle ayu ayach utin. Tle we dleit tunach awe yagasage you a. We gooch ku a. Wanani sowe tu gune ushhich du yinade. Tlayak ye Agustin awe. Du unai yanach ʼawtudli.át. Yanach ʼawtudli.át du unai. Aga awe agede yat uagut. Wasak shech iwane cha. Wasak shech iwane. Aga awe shiadach ʼawtudli.át. Wushyat ʼawtudli.át. Aga awe ausitin. Akmanach nashu du kraknach wetzak. Aga awe ye ayosaka. Tlischa iwune cha. Idek kodeshi. Aga awe du tlitai ach ke awati. Yan in at ke ayish awe. We tleit kat awe uwachich wetzak. Ye kunasle ye yaujihich we gooch. Aga awe ach awati. Aga awe ye adayaka. Ach kek chwati. Cha ach ji yek chwati. Hat ku a kwan idashi. Achwe yidat a yadu uch rat ke tuwati at awe. Cha haji yek chwati. Lahets atunach haji yehuti. Yaganach yek chwatsak. Kutia yandegach tuti. Yadu uchrat ke wutuwash yishi hajik slahet yach nagati de owe.
Okay. Sheesh. S'eek again, gwell hooch.
Gwallchat Yís now. It's kind of long. I'll just do part of it, like the end part, maybe. Page 174. I'll read it from my book because otherwise I have to get my face up so close. Now, Edach, Deslindach. So let's put page 50. Yeah. Haye aya wush khank da den aya wush khanka ka at wush anas anjan aya chalk dach kosti slinget a dach aya yidat a ha yis nawadi shashwe ute shachas you glade ka yenade yachlitzin Astitundatani. Ha yach'agu edi hastu in kadunigi. Lesh ayach you tuk the tank. Lesh ak has uhin. Ayach'ak ade ak aduhiniya. Uya uk kach dutu adye ayah tiin cha. Aya ha kostiye aya slinget ya slinget ani a kak aya wushdach wuskuen ka wush ya a wudaneyen ha de huch awe gunilchish
Echa. Jeez.
Can you go Kash at page 264? Kash at Shika 1980. You kakwatan slash chagut at kéenáx chaade kwa ye khat kagahi u tsa arusas slash khat kayakji ya dach khankayan yak ye wakshayik neelte haskugoat adach ya she at has agoslayech ya diskatach ye do sa kwas has to sleep ak ashia akat ya haskugoat you tlianach adach ya anach neelte agogoat yede kwas kashi kat ach shaya odeneki yat yakini ak dat chankayan tsa heslayach ush kat has wudanagi kwan chade hasna u et neelte haskagoadi ka always ha has ak slehenia she ya khunadach ya akak ke tuk ashi kat aya neelte agugoat ashude away tsa has kakwashi tsa dekshe ye aya ya has aya guksachich ya idat shaya ordinaki chastakat yede aya kaudli khwas hastu kusti yak neith ua adi ach dach chankayan tsa ya kagwantan tude Sluknach adi tude chuk anedi tude Dísi tan tude S'eek yede S'eek hastu kusti achaya ya hastu slik has anak kut shuhihi at cha uya wush hu has has ayakawa Dísi yachiti. At has asyechi. Tur tlakdach ha dachchan. Ha kana keo tusinuk. Atuslitsin. Tur kushtuyach dasa. Tushage at Tujide yat gatutian. Ha dat chank sitiika. Atayai dat hastu akshiich tuslayech. Sir, heslayach ye tugate. Hasya kai taade. Haskaki u. Shawat gurkan. Kashi aya. Akat has ak gwas eich. Itnach away. Kak gwaha. Katan ai. Is that right? Yewe. Hoi. Hooch.
Okay, sheesh, plain.
That works different muscles.
Yeah, what?
Oh boy.
Gwell chadau Kajit kuchich ai. Ach tuasagu chatsu and katatani achun chuhas. Shtakatyat idnaqi. Ya yis qa kuch sati Awa akach ach tuklaqi. Chatsu ya yidat. Ya yijit wutuwatóow at dadeyi ya kuch sataqi. Ya yitla kakas at uwu. Ach ish has yat yidnaqi. Awa akach ach tuklaqi. Kate dayin ayu dutlak ish galnig. Ach ish has awa yik dunig yutan. Du dench ayu kuyaw dudlejak. Aka awa tiit jinach satanen awa yu Ka akach hint uskidch. We du kak has iji. Wananis taka awa yu Cha'an qwana yu. Ye kat awa ya yat uwagut. Ya sha yu de. Wananis awa aya uwagut we chisawa. Aka awa ashke wa wuz. Good sa ya nigut. Cha'a khat na qwana ye de aya yan khakut. Khat du tlilk awa we chisawa. You ach tla kak has iji. Ka akach hint chat uskidch. Yakuti ach kaya nachyati. Haku chunk. Haku. Aka awe ashik awahu you Isawach awe yik uwahu you tan. Aka awe yuch ashkawana. Gusa we hin klati di yi. Kleklek awe at uwagut. You do ta kakas ijika de. Yuch it's awa yik uhuch awe. Klek akach hint wuskid. Ajawe chu ya yidat de. Yi teen an. Kushti sa tit ji wustani. Aka kanukch. Ye ya yi kwati. Ya yi hlil kohas yata yit kin Hastu yukatangich awe uwe ya. Yi yik has awuhuhu. Awuhuwu awe yakakati. Ajawe kelkwan akach hind wuski dik. Ya yi tla kak has tu wu. Okay. Ya gwell. Wujin yuchagach ʼat. Ya yidat yertakata yejine da. Atlingun chish klein yuhan. So let's reflect on all of this last week and a half here. with Haa Tuwunáagu Yís, or maybe 2 weeks, however long it's been. What an incredible gift we have in this book and the audio that is with it. And I just think about them a lot, sitting there with the tape recorder, rewind, play, typewriter, right? Like just wildly. But also like having less maybe efficient technology, but having Nora Dowenhauer. So but we have the technology now, but sitting next to her and doing transcription and translation work was always so fun. Sometimes like I remember one time I said, okay, what is this? Can you translate that? She goes, it's your turn. I was like, oh, okay. Is it this? And she's like, yep, that's it. And so it was fun. It was intimidating to sit with the legend and just try and like be a little bit like her. But yeah, let's take this next half hour and just talk about all of this stuff. Any questions you had, any things you wanted to look at. I think Hashukut was probably a variety of things, probably, but a lot of it reel to reel, and then I think transitioning at some point in the 80s to cassette. But like there seems to be some of them that have this little, like a gooseneck microphone or something, and you can hear sometimes when they twist it. It's very loud sometimes in some of these older recordings. But De Laguna recorded on a wire. It's just like a little spool of wire. It's the wildest thing. And then there was these Tascam recorders that Rosita Whirl had one, and Nora had one, and her brother Johnny Marks had one, and Forrest DeWitt had one. And that's where a lot of our recordings on the coast come from. And then I think when she was traveling I don't know if she was using, I never asked her, like, she must have been using that Tascam reel-to-reel when she recorded Tom Peters and Burt Dennis and stuff. And so it was a big thing that she had to carry around. And she said people teased her, called her a beatnik for running around with this thing and wanting to record people. And I'm sure I told you, but one time I thanked her for making all these recordings, and she said, I wish I never did. And I was like, whoa, why? And she said, because they asked me not to, but I kept bothering them. And I said, well, okay, good. But then she flipped the whole thing around. Like by the end, they were saying, like, come record your uncle one more time, like he's gonna go. And so it was amazing. But I think when they probably transferred them to cassette, but I don't know. Like, it would be interesting. I do think Barbara Cadiente did a lot of the typing for it, and Jeff Lear was there, and so we could talk to those folks about like what was it like and how did they do that. So again, in some regards, like it was a lot more difficult because like now we could sit on a Zoom with headphones on, and like the technology part is it's still not easy, but it's like easier than it was. But then also like they had, like her mom she could just ask her parents like, hey dad, what's this? Hey mom, you got Emma Marks and you got Willie Marks right there. And so just thinking of the pool of amazing knowledge in terms of like they could have whole conversations about how we're going to interpret this, how we're going to interpret that. And the one thing I guess I kind of want us to look at as well is this really cool verb. I mean, there's tons of like really amazing stuff to look at in these speeches. But I'm going to go down to this verb. So this khayaq, you see this, it's more than like to represent as, to portray, liken to, especially as an illustration, but also for discussion. So then when we go look up represent, and we'll look at this in Jeff's notes too and see what he has in there. This is probably one of those verbs that is maybe just needs like a whole set of paragraphs to talk about how this verb really works. Because if you look at these speeches, you'll see this one used quite a bit. And so, let's see. So I'm going to, that's a biblical example, but still it shows us some things. That's a strange sample sentence. I represent myself as the door. I would want some context on that one. But it's like in a parable. So now, like, when we get these speeches, we're talking metaphor, we're talking imagery, we're talking, like, the content is one thing, but also like this very elevated language. Lots of these potentials in there, the can't mode keeps popping up. So let's take a look at, let me find it in here. It's got to be in here, I think. Maybe. So now, estimated dimension of time, arrival, a simile, a comparison, likened it to. And so, like, just thinking, like, making this, but then when we see this word come up, like it's like the way I'm going to explain it to you. So it's like saying I'm going to compare it to something. It's just, keep an eye out for it. This is a really powerful verb. Who's got a thought or a question? Let me get the...
I do.
Okay.
I tried to translate 2 lines in Charlie Joseph, 19 and 20. And the translation is even if they don't move correctly, but I got wutuwatóow is to stand up, and whoosh cut, I thought this would mean whoosh cut has wutuwatóow kwan. I thought that means not right, stand facing each other.
Oh, this line 20, is that where you're at?
Yeah, the part that says hethayach ushkat haswudanagi kwan. I couldn't get where they got. They said even if they don't move correctly.
Yeah, so the big part here is this shayach. So tesh ayach. So the thing we see that's happening a lot with these high fluency speakers is if they're really in the flow and a vowel comes before tesh, it might just become, so you'd say sushayach, right? So it would sound like almost like one word, sushayach, but shayach is this tesh contracting just to the letter L. So tesh ayach would be incorrect. Right, so that's our first sort of like part here. And then we get whoosh, cut, haswudanaq. So then we got to sort of look at this whoosh, cut, haswudanaq and just see if we could find something that's kind of like that, right? Because we know there's a bunch of these. This knock verb is one that has a bunch of different variations, and we'll see that there's a bunch of stuff when we get down here and find it. So now we start getting into it. So once we start putting things in front of this, like you could say, nak is to stand, right? This is plural, the plural form of hun. But then we start seeing how this could change. So you could say daat, ʼtuwunáagu. We're giving them moral support. We're standing around them. Wutuwatóow came to their support. Daat, but we're looking like a da. They all pitched in to work on it. A da wutuwatóow. And we had like wutuwatóow. They confronted each other, stood up for them. The plural forms of leaders. They stood up. They had a housewarming party. So like not really seeing this whoosh cut part on there. And so coming back, whoops, wrong text. Kesh ayach whoosh cut has wutuwatóow. I would interpret that as they didn't stand together. They didn't like, they weren't doing it correctly. You know, if we come back here and we say, if they didn't move correctly. So when we got that, wush katas wutuwatóow would be, and that's an interesting thing to try and interpret, because they stood on each other is almost what it sounds like.
In that, Lance, in this kasat, they use cut a lot when they're referring to come in on a song.
Oh, okay.
So I thought maybe the cut was referring to the song, but that's a guess.
That's a, yeah, wush katas wutuwatóow. Wush katas wutuwatóow. So I think when so if he goes in and he's saying like here, they're going to come in, they're going to enter, and when they're positioned and when they're doing things, so like I guess sort of like standing on it incorrectly would sort of be, and maybe this is what we have, is like being off in terms of the beat or not quite doing it correctly, especially as they're bringing out these big songs. Because what also is going on here is they decided to bring these songs and dances out that were at that time only done at S'eek. Like you did not do these outside of S'eek at that time. And they were doing it at this gathering to talk about what to do with our culture and our language. So,
and right above it, it says kwas kashi cut. He uses
yeah.
cut.
So they're going to do it on that song, right?
So I thought maybe whoosh cut meant referring to that.
It could be like, but you would expect like wooch in cut. Whoosh cut tas wutuwatóow. I guess that's one that maybe I'll see if I could figure that out. And if you are talking with the speaker, let's ask a speaker about that. Say, well, what do you think this is? Whoosh cut tas wutuwatóow. Okay. Because the context is certainly all there with like the dancing. And so really what he is talking about, like if they're not dancing correct, like, because some of these songs do require very specific movements, especially once you start getting into some of the yekutis or when they're talking about these love songs, the shukarchucht, they're supposed to be going in certain directions, their heads move in certain ways, and so that's probably what he's referring to. And then there's this, I'm going to look at something else real quick.
Well, hey, Lance, just comment here. Old Dave Ness is kasat Dutchkan, and he told me a story about his grandfather had to stand up and explain that just because one of his grandkids is white doesn't mean they're dancing wrong, because Dave is white and Roger is, they call him Haji. He's dark, but they're blood brothers.
Oh, okay.
So this, I think, is part of that Dave was talking about.
Yeah, and this nak, like there's another like just sort of clue here when we look at the qoqtenq, which is used for the sway dance. That's called yukunuk, which means to repeatedly, like the stand verb is in there, but there's something else a little bit because it's standing, but it can also be to move while standing, right? Like, so for example, if you're in line, like say to get a coffee, and somebody's like breathing on your neck because they're so close to you in line, and you're at the Tlingit Kakwe Dakahiti, you could turn to them and say, "Kuchgitahan." To quote Stevie Nicks, stand back, right? And so that's what that means. So there's your next translation project, Shanaqi, to Stevie Nicks. Kuchgitahan. I don't know how the rhythm goes, but that nuk, that also, because you are standing, but it's like that's the sway dance. And so when they start talking about dancing and moving as a group, because when you enter as a group and when you dance as a group, you're not just an individual, you are part of that collective. And it probably is what it's referring to. So when you get some things like wuch kat wutuwatóow, it means like to stand on top of one another, but it's probably a metaphor for like being in a dance group and doing the dances correctly. Skydu.
Yeah, so for Gooch Ish's speech, he gave it at the world's largest totem raising, right? But he gave it with his brother. Was his brother Jimmy George? Because they said that he gave it with his brother, who was his opposite,
Oh,
and balance it out. So there was a speech given at the same time, but for he was like representing the Raven people, and to have balance, somebody said it in the one of their Eagle people said it, but I can't find that one. And I was
there's a
wondering if
recording of it, right? And
hmm
there's a video recording, and somebody's like live translating this incredible
Yeah.
speech. It could be like we can ask Kanak because that's her grandpa. Um, Jimmy George, I think, was from Angoon,
Okay.
and so I'm not sure. It might have been someone from. You'd expect it. I would expect it to be someone from Cake, but I don't know. I'll have to check. It
Yeah,
might.
because the Alaska posted a video on Vimeo, and
That's
that's how I was able to find it. Yeah, and it's like an actual video of it, but it more focuses on Coach Ish's words.
oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll see
And
what I.
he had somebody live translating for him, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, like high pressure stuff. Let's see. There are notes to the speeches, and so this it does say, uh, yeah, Jimmy George. There it is.
And audio cassette copy
Hmm.
for Nora.
So I'm wondering if they referred to them as brothers because, like in Tlingit way, they would be brothers,
Yeah, that could be.
but they're opposites too, hey? So, but can you still call somebody your brother? They're your
We usually
opposite.
call them you'd say Connie, right? Ach, Connie. And so when we get into these kinship terms, like it's, yeah, and then Jimmy George in particular, who will speak as a representative of the guests. So there it is. So he represents both the opposite and the guests. And so there was probably something like that. And so, yeah, that's it. I don't know. That's interesting. In terms of why they would use that term. And that's probably, maybe that's how they refer to each other too. And so, um, But it would just remind, I was in Hawaii and we were both staying at Larry Kimura's house, and Larry Kimura was a little concerned because it was kind of a small space and two of us were sharing the space. I was like, it's okay, we're bros. And he goes, I don't know this word bros. You know, and so I was like, oh, and it's like, he's my brother. It's like, oh, I know that word. So yeah. Okay. Good memory.
About the idea of analyzing a speech, I gave myself permission to start very simply with just underlining in blue the repetition, because that was the rhetoric that I could recognize first. And so I ended up with repetition, a language note, and when I could identify them, the proverbs or big concepts. So that's how I started trying to analyze this.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff we could do, like going in, and then you could take another round where you're like, let me find the verbs and let me write the verb root. Let me,
Right.
and then you
Every
start
verb.
pulling the verbs apart. And so there's, and then as you were looking, I just noticed the word S'eek. And I just think like intermediate and advanced learners need to use that word more because I feel like we use S'eek all the time. But S'eek has transformed into like later, bro, right? And so but it's literally a time reference. And so S'eek, oh wait, just a little while ago, this thing happened. And you see them using that to refer to things that have happened. So, okay.
I think that Clinket Jeopardy you could make around the book Hashika. Like, okay, I'll take ʼat for 100, please. You know, like that. I think there's a lot of game potential here. Because me and my wife, every night we watch Jeopardy. And so I started saying the ones that I could say in Clinket, I started jumping on them.
Okay. Yeah. Now this is fun. S'eek dasa ʼatúwnáagu Yís. Again, it doesn't matter what we don't want to share. Tushage, like this verb means like to not want to share something. So this ʼatúwnáagu, this thing we don't want to share. We're going to give it from this space to them, the ones who will become our grandchildren. Oh. I do.
Could that tushage be translated as like stingy too?
Well, you have like S'eek would be like straight stingy.
Okay.
Yeah, but then if we go in here and we find this, should be under, that one's an underlined G, where this one should be just a, so it's there. Refuse to give or lend, keep for oneself, value for oneself. But it's a stingy verb. They're certainly related conceptually. But when we come here and and this is like, it's always when you see some new verb, like as far as what to do with these speeches, I think finding these verbs and just saying like, I want to learn what that verb is. I want to learn. And so my habit is I look it up in the verb dictionary. It's like, oh, okay. Then you see the one that's underlined, and that shows you where to go find the examples. So I'll go look at refuse. And then Dana, ʼawtudli.át, they refuse to give or lend any money. S'eek, a greedy person. They always, so like s'eek is the verb for greedy. S'eek or s'eek, that's low all the way across. Because this suffix is the attributive, so you could put it onto especially any state verb, and now it becomes an adjective. S'eek, a greedy person. T'kluk, always. Ya'at, this greedy, or not greedy, I guess, like refusing to share things, and then you end up with anything. Shqiqiqa, t'kluk ya'at. Yeah, shqiqiqa. Yeah. Well. Okay. Other thoughts, questions, things of note?
Cut. Yeah. So I read Kéenáx's speech again and listened to it a couple of times. And there's something about his words that really touch my heart. I wrote down, take, who is she? I don't know, would you say that? My heart is touched.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's his voice wasn't very strong, and he was sick and coughing, and and there's that image of a wounded animal in there, a wounded bear trying to heal itself or to help itself.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote this. I wrote ʼatángi wutuwatóow, Haa kéenáx wutuwatóow, wutuwatóow, S'eek ka wutuwatóow. Just that we're all wounded as we, excuse me, my voice is a little bit froggy. Yeah, just that idea that we all get wounded as we go along in our lives, and that yes, we have to try and heal ourselves and to help each other heal.
So yeah, so like it's so interesting, like the healing verb, because you could say wooch ye gach tusneich, we're going to heal one another. And if you say yeshkak kwasneich, I will survive. Like it's wild, because that verb I think has three major interpretations: healing, saving, which like it has been a little bit co-opted, to be honest, by Christianity. It's been used in a lot of salvation type of things, but long time, but like that literally meant, like, let's say you're eating something that's, like, you get this yummy piece of dry fish and you got a little bit left and you're like, I'm going to save this for later. That is the verb you would use. And I believe that's the same verb for when, like, the animals come to take you. And so it's such an interesting thing. And like coming back to here, ichuni chede, at the mouth, to the mouth of your wound. And then you have this daat, which means to pack personal things. And then, like, he says yikasagu, and there's something about this too, like this means fun, your joy. But like when you're having joy, it means you're not wounded, right? Like, and even if you are, it's like this, how I think from the Tlingit perspective, the things that I was taught, like at S'eek, when you open with these cry songs, and people know like this is maybe my last chance to have a real good cry for this person. And then what they're going to do is after they bring out the food and they feed the ancestors, and there's usually like a speech like these ones to remove, there's a speech that was usually given to remove the grief. And then what I was told was like those clan leaders start to try and really get everybody laughing and having fun, because what I was taught was when you have an emotion and you eat, you also feed that emotion. So if you're angry and you eat, you're going to get more angry. So they would try to get you laughing and feeling good right before that food comes out, because you're going to feed that joy. And so when he's talking like this, like giving like he can't go to the ʼquig, but he records a speech to be played at the ʼquig. And like ʼawtudli.át, Haa Tuwunáagu. We're going to put our kindness on your open wound. And like just really comparing it to this. And then here, ʼawtudli.át. This is how I want to make this comparison, this visual, this metaphor. That you would see it. Like it's just such good stuff. And then this yaduk and the face of your skin. And then there's a phrase, maybe you folks have heard this. It's a duduk teshkuste. What is that? Duduk teshkuste.
ʼawtudli.át. ʼawtudli.át. Don't get embarrassed.
Yes, but it literally means, because duk is like your skin, but it's also your complexion. So like, and when someone was in one of my classes, they said, my grandma used to always say this, and she said it means you got no face. And it was like, kind of, yes, but it means like you don't turn red, like duduk teshkuste. And it sounds like their skin doesn't exist, but like, yeah, the richness of this stuff is so cool. Like there's so much stuff to just keep. We're just like a little sea lion popping up for air and then going down, popping up for air.
Kéenáx ide chachgunachstu gachatati chlikatu hastu ye jinei katsu ade has ha kawanigie. This book being a really amazing example of the way that people talk about the way that they translated, and just going through little bits and reading the Lingi first and then seeing the way they translated it is opening my mind to potential translation, and just really grateful for the way that they did this work.
Yeah.
I remember King Steve saying too that if you study Lingi, your English will get better too. And I feel like sometimes my English grammar gets really messed up because I'm trying to do like Lingi grammar with my English, but I also really feel like there's a refinement process that's happening, and I'm getting better at the way that I'm speaking English and getting my my edges polished, and it's good work.
Yeah. And I believe that when you study this stuff and then you keep speaking, what I think happens is you start speaking and then you're like, oops, I messed that up. And you have to do like these start over things. But like, don't worry, because your mind is like programming itself to do those types of things, because it has to do things in a totally different way, right? And so like, it's so interesting to me, especially when we listen to like, the Because We Cherish You recordings are so interesting, because you've got like 4 or 5 speakers that are all getting up and just like, it's like if you play guitar and you're like, okay, well, now Jimi Hendrix is gonna go, and after that it's Stevie Ray Vaughan, and then it's this, it's just like one after another. You just keep playing the hits, and they're just doing such incredible stuff with the language. And then when you like have the ability to listen to them and like catch their pacing and the way that they're doing that, it really gives you something amazing to emulate. Because the stories, it's just a different way of talking than with these speeches. Just the rhythm, you got to elevate your voice up into this higher register, and yeah. Okay.
Did you know Al Davis?
I don't think so. No.
He was an umpire for baseball in Sitka, and I think, as I remember, it was like balls and strikes. Whoa, go! And that's how all the kids knew him.
Mm-hmm.
Al Davis, the umpire. But Dad would take us to A&B Hall, and we'd have to go to these. We didn't call them S'eek or potlatch. Dad just called them parties. And we'd go and we'd hear him, among others, speak. It was like he morphed into somebody else. I mean, he was two different people. When he was speaking, he already had the deep voice. It was just cool to watch. Stopped everybody in their shoes for a while.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard Clarence Jackson speak Tlingit. I was at a meeting at Clinton Haida Housing, probably in 2000 or 2001, and he stood and he was like going like this on the table and like boom, but and like he never opened his teeth, like his teeth stayed together, and just but I was watching, I was like, this is amazing, just like the things that he was saying and the way that he was talking, it was just wild. And then just to see the transformation that takes place when people need to, it's like you tap into that river and then you flow along. Okay, so
Sorry, I'll just ask you a quick one, maybe, Renee. So I noticed a couple of, so there was one that said from between his teeth,
mhm.
and the other one, Ziyagidach, from a while back,
Oh yeah.
which both have kind of the end chopped off and that duck put on, or TX underline X put on. And I'm wondering, is that just more because of the rhythm, do you think? Or is that something people would do normally, is chop the last, just kind of morph into that duck and cut off the last part of that word?
Let's see.
Where did I find it? I think,
Look now. Let's see.
let me see.
This is the page where he's saying like between its teeth, but like
Yeah,
nach and
just up. I thought it was up a bit higher.
ja nach tuwunáagu. Yeah, there was that part where
uh,
nach.
um, oh, let me 222. Let me. It's up top. 190 is. Oh, maybe the next page then. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, ʼat. Yeah, so there you have so some of these things that end with a K, like yik and chak and tak and take, that K can go away it could be replaced by an underline X. And then what we're probably seeing here is you can contract dach to just a T underline X. And the pattern is likely that you can, like if you say out of the boat, yak yikdach, you could say that. But you could probably say yak yitch, and you could do that as well. So when that contracts, it probably knocks that K out of there. And that's probably what's going on with that one. So you could say ak, dach is the, if we pull it all apart, then we snap it back together. And at from between the teeth.
So it just drops the K, like that's pretty normal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk, like talk, heen, talk. So you would probably say heen, tot from inside the water, right? Tot.
Okay.
And you could also say heen, tach, and that K. So it seems like without, it's probably if the vowel is no vowel in the suffix, the K will get canceled.
Okay. The other one's 2:30. If you want to have a quick look or not, that's okay. It's I know it's getting late.
Oh yeah. So it's a yak, and then for that one, you can't really go yak dach. Well, I guess you can, but it looks like that's the one where it takes a peg vowel. Yak dach.
Okay.
And so you just got a peg vowel that helps you get to that. Because we see it in ziyagan with when you put the and there's a really interesting thing that's going on here with that's a decessive suffix, right? So you say wugut, wugudin, or you say nagutj, nagutjin, and it means used to but not anymore. Dusagan, right?
Right.
But it seems to be there in seqanin, ziyagan, and those are future things, which I don't know what to make of it. But that's, ziyak is a while ago, ziyagan is a while from now, and then ziyagadach would be from a while ago. And I think you could probably say, I don't know what you do with ziyagan day, because I don't know if you could do those two on there.
Cool. Sheesh.
Okay. Into the deep waters we go.
Could I just ask a quick question, please? In that passage I read by ʼatángi, he says, at wush sanast anjan. That means, yes, they used to get lonesome for each other. And that's a verb I've never used before, heard of. I usually use tish. Do you see that?
At wush sanast anjan, that one?
Yes.
So now we got to look for, we'll look for dan. So one is we know that this is na conjugation. We know that this is a decessive habitual. So just like nachagutjin, I used to always go, right? So we're going to look for S classifier, and so we're probably looking for something like satan or sa dan. Let's go see if we can find it. Expect, look forward to seeing. So we used to, and we'll go again, a good habit is to look up the examples. And the fun part, is like we just keep learning new verbs this way. Tini isagach susatan. When you take a trip, we shall expect you to come back. Achyit sachsatan. So that's expecting. So we used to always expect to see each other. It's probably what we're sort of getting there. And so when we go back, sachsatan, okay, that's a zero conjugation though, so that's interesting. So then whoosh, at whoosh sanas ungin aya ch'ak dachhusti lingit. Haye aya wutuwatóow. We used to always come to be with each other. Aya wutuwatóow, the ones who would go, they were always going to see each other. Like this, these are the images that are coming in my mind. Like you're always going to go, we just want to go see them. We want to go be with them. We used to always expect to see each other long time ago, the ones who were Lingit. And so that expectation is like really interesting. Like I'm expecting them to come and see me. We used to always expect each other. It's probably a motion verb then, because it, if it can change conjugation prefix, like there could be a not conjugation one, but I'm guessing it's a motion verb. So this would be, this ʼat in front of it would be around. So like when you say ʼatwunáagu, they walked around. So it's like we used to visit each other, those related to each other. ʼdaat, the ones who are all, they're going after being next to each other, I guess. And then ʼatwunáagu, we used to go around expecting to see each other. Wild.
Geez.
There's no bottom. It's like a lake with no bottom. It just goes down and down, but you'll be just fine. You'll grow gills or something. I gotta think of less dangerous metaphors, right? I always end up with like making it sound like people are gonna drown. Like, I don't know what, you're gonna be a fish, I don't know. You'll be fine. You'll be a froggy or something. Okay, s'eek play.
Gonfaltíis.
Gonfaltíis.
Geez.
Can this cheese should cut you on?
Kecha.